Rain hammers the triple canopy jungle like 1,000 machine guns, turning the earth into a sucking mire that clings to every boot. It's October 17, 1967. Aelu 6:30 hours, deep in Phuoc Tuy Province, South Vietnam. Lieutenant Mark Harlan stares at the glowing screen of his backpack sensor console. The green blips steady, no motion, no seismic pings, no chemical traces. All clear, boys. He radios back to his platoon of 32 grunts from the 1st Infantry Division. They push forward, M16s at the ready, hearts pounding but minds eased by the billions in tech Uncle Sam poured into this godforsaken green hell. The sniffer unit hums softly, its probes sniffing for ammonia from human sweat or piss. Nothing. Seismic arrays dropped from C-130s weeks ago blanket the trails, silent. Harlan's men step over roots, slick with rot, the stench of decaying vegetation thick enough to choke a mule. Confidence swells. This is modern war, won by electrons, not savages. Then the world explodes. An M79 grenade launcher thumps from the underbrush 50 yards left. No warning, no blip. Shrapnel rips through PFC Tommy Ruiz's thigh, his scream swallowed by the roar of AK-47s erupting from invisible bunkers. Bullets zip like hornets, snapping branches, punching into flesh. Harlan dives behind a termite mound as his radio man crumples, throat torn open, gurgling blood that smells like copper pennies in humid air. Ambush. Pull back. Chaos reigns. Men firing blind into the green wall, the sensors still mocking them with their idiot calm. 8 dead in 90 seconds, the platoon shattered. Viet Cong ghosts melting away like smoke. How? The machine said, safe. Harlan survives, but the question burns. In the first high-tech war, how did a $2 million sensor grid get punked by barefoot guerrillas? This wasn't dumb luck. It was the blind faith in gadgets versus the ancient eye. The story of how American tech wizards scoffed at a sunburned Aussie with a stick, until that stick saved lives where silicon failed. Flashback 6 months earlier, to the Australian Task Force base at Nui Dat, where the elite 2nd Squadron, Special Air Service Regiment, rolled in from the Malayan jungles. Their leader, a wiry tracker named Sergeant Len Tracker Roberts. No Hollywood hero, just a 34-year-old sheep farmer's son from Queensland, skin like leather from years chasing Aborigines' secrets across the outback. Roberts carried no radar, no sniffers, just a tracking stick, a 3-foot bamboo pole notched for measuring footprints, paired with a battered notebook and eyes honed by indigenous lore and jungle wars from Borneo to Malaya. The Yanks gathered around like kids at a freak show. A cluster of 25th Infantry lieutenants, fresh from Fort Benning, tech manuals dog-eared in their packs, pointed and hooted as Roberts knelt in the mud, prodding a trail with his stick. "What the hell is this, Crocodile Dundee cosplay?" snorted Captain Ellis Vance, chain-smoking Winston's, his sniffer rig slung like a trophy. "We got seismic nets that hear a gook fart from a click away. You Aussies playing caveman?" Laughter rippled through the GIs, their M60 gunners smirking. Roberts didn't flinch. He traced a bootprint's edge with a calloused finger, noting the mud's crust, dry on the heel, damp in the toe. 3 men, 160 pounds each, passed here 72 hours ago. Light loads, moving south-southeast. They'll hit the stream at 0400 tomorrow. The Americans rolled eyes. Their sensors would have lit up like Christmas if that were true. But from the Viet Cong commander's perspective in the Cu Chai tunnels, 40 miles northwest, it was Paranoia City. Major Nguyen Van Thieu, a battle-hardened NVA cadre, pored over captured intel by lantern light, sweat beading despite the chill. His sappers whispered of ghost trackers, silent shadows who read the jungle like a book. "The Americans bring machines that scream at deer piss," Thieu growled to his lieutenants. "But these Australians, they see what we hide." He'd seen reports from Long Tan, where Aussie recce's evaded his best ambushes. Thieu's men urinated in buckets hung high in trees to fool the sniffers, sidestepped seismic pads with bamboo stilts, even drove pigs over trails to mimic footsteps. It worked, mostly. Yankee platoons barreled into clear zones, only to trigger claymores. But the SAS? They paused at a snapped twigs angle, a leaf's curl, the telltale void where spiders hadn't rewoven their webs overnight. Thieu lost sleep, ordering double watches, his paranoia validated when a recce team ghosted within 200 meters of his HQ undetected. Contrast the brute force of Uncle Sam's arsenal. Operation Igloo White, billions sunk into 20,000 sensors airdropped like confetti, feeding data to computers in Thailand that spat out kill zone. Old school patrols? Human waves crashing against bunkers, body counts tallied like groceries. Enter the surgical strike. Roberts' visual tracking, learned from Aboriginal elders who read the desert's diary, footprint depth revealing load weight. A full RPG sank 2 inches deeper than empty. Soil dryness clocking passage. Edge cracks after 48 hours in 80% humidity. Declassified SAS diaries from Nui Dat, smuggled out in 1968, quote Roberts, "The ground doesn't lie. Machines glitch, Earth remembers." Weeks later, Harlan's own platoon, post-ambush survivors, linked up with Roberts for a joint op near Long High. The sensors blinked green again, urging a shortcut through elephant grass. Vance pushed. "Trust the tech, mates." Roberts froze, stick probing a faint scuff. "No, 5 hostiles, heavy weapons, dug in 800 meters ahead. Passed yesterday at dusk." Mockery again. Bloody witch doctor. But Roberts led a detour, circling silent. Dawn revealed the trap. Bunkers bristling with RPDs, urine buckets dangling like Christmas ornaments. Harlan's men lived. Vance's face drained white, sniffer silent as the grave. In war rooms back at Tan Son Nut, Pentagon liaisons scribbled memos. Australian primitive methods yield 92% accuracy versus US censor, 47% false positives in monsoon. Rain, monkeys, VC tricks, all felled the machine. The stick, unjammable. As Tyr's paranoia deepened, his ambushes thinned. Aussie intel flowing like water. Enemy strength, direction, even morale from boot polish smears on lead. This was Vietnam's brutal lesson unfolding. The jungle, older than empires, laughed last at Silicon. Deep in the Cu Chi Tunnel complex, Major Nguyen Van Thieu hunched over a bamboo table slick with condensation, the air thick with the reek of nuoc mam and cordite. It was February 1968, Tet offensive raging topside. But down here his nightmares weren't rockets, it was the ghost with the stick. Scouts dragged in, faces gaunt, babbling of shadows that followed without sound. "They don't charge like the Americans?" one whispered. "Bandaged stump where his foot used. They read our piss trails like tea leaves, Major. We hung the buckets higher, scattered dung from water buffalo. Nothing." One Aussie knelt, poked the dirt with his pole, and vanished like mist. Thieu slammed a fist, cracking a peanut shell. His sappers, masters of deception, now jumped at snapped twigs. Convinced eyes watched from the vines. Reports from Phuoc Tui piled up. 3 supply convoys ghosted, an RPD nest bypassed clean. "These dogs don't need machines," Thieu snarled to his commissar. "They smell our fear in the footprints." Up on the surface, Captain Ellis Vance nursed a lukewarm beer at Nui Dat's sandbagged bar, the joint op with Roberts still gnawing at him like a bad rash. Harlan's platoon owed their hides to that outback caveman, but Vance wasn't sold. "One fluke," he griped to a circle of flyboy intel officers, their flight suits starched crisp. "Our igloo white grids got 20,000 eyes, seismic, acoustic, infrared, dropped from B-52s like God's own rain. Cost more than your sheep farm, Roberts." The tracker, oiling his SLR rifle by lantern light, just grunted, eyes distant as the Gibson Desert. Next dawn, Vance got his demo, a live-fire exercise on a mock trail laced with VC tricks, fake prints from water-filled gloves, pig urine doused heavy. U.S. sniffers wailed false positives, seismic pads thumping at phantom steps. Platoon halted, wasting ammo into shadows. "Roberts?" He sauntered ahead, stick notched at 1.2 inches, probing a heel mark. 8 men, 4 with 70-kilo packs, RPGs by the drag. Passed 14 hours ago, humidity 85%, mud edges flaking at 30%. Vance's console agreed, barely, but only after cross-checking 3 bogus signals. "Luck," Vance muttered, but his voice lacked bite. Declassified after-action reports from the 1st Australian Task Force, archived in Canberra's war vaults, paint the picture raw. Roberts's team logged 47 contacts in Q1 1968 alone. 0 blue on blue. Visual tracking yields intent. 1 entry, scribbled in Roberts's spidery hand. Toe splay shows fatigue. Polish flecks on bark signal resupply halt. Contrast that with Uncle Sam's sensor symphony. Operation Pink Rose. Thermal images spotting body heat through canopy, yet fooled by straw dummies warmed by dung fires. Yankee patrols, screens glowing all clear, stumbled into Punji pits or Chicom, 107mm rockets zeroed from spider hole. One declassified CIA memo from Tan Son Nahut Phu. Sensor false alarm rate 62% in wet season. VC countermeasures adaptive, stilts over pads, thermal blankets from rice sacks. Brute tech versus surgical eye. Americans carpeted jungle with electronic confetti, hoping stats would bury Charlie. Roberts read the narrative etched in soil: gallop stride for panic flight, shallow prints for bamboo cages hauling POWs. Tu's paranoia metastasized. In a lantern-lit war council 20 meters under Datdo village, he pored over captured Yank maps, fingers tracing red ink. "Double the decoys," he ordered. "Urine from dogs now, trails forked with water bags dragged backward." His demo sapper, Leduc, nodded grimly. Lou had seen it firsthand. Last patrol, they'd looped a trail pristine, webs intact, leaves undisturbed. Yet the Aussie materialized at dusk, 400 meters out, whispering chords via radio that called in Puff the Magic Dragon. Les squad scattered, 3 cooked by napalm that smelled like hell's barbecue. "They know our weight from one print," Les confessed, voice cracking. "Heavy mortar bearers sink 2.5 centimeters. We lighten loads, they laugh inside." Thieu lay awake that night, tunnel walls pressing like a coffin, dreaming of footprints marching toward him. Vance's skepticism cracked wider on Operation Coburg February 8th, border skirmishes flaring hot. Joint platoon, 20 Yanks, 12 SAS, prowled toward a reported NVA buildup near Bien Hoa. Sensors sang green, no ammonia spikes, seismic quiet as a nun. Harlan, scar fresh from his ambush, eyed Roberts warily. "Your call, mate." The Aussie dropped low at a stream ford, stick measuring silt displacement. "Ambush, 12, maybe 15. AK drags, 82mm mortar tube, set in 6 hours ago. Rain-washed, but voids in moss tell it." Vance snorted, sniffer probe extended. "Bull, my rig says dry." Roberts ignored him, tracing a faint boot scrape. "Enemy commander's print, unique heel wear, French surplus. He's here directing." They flanked wide, chopper insertion aborted. At 0300, Artie slammed the grid square. Screams echoed, bunker complex lit orange. Post-strike recon, 14 bodies, urine buckets swinging empty, 1 officer's boot matching Roberts' sketch. Vance vomited into the ferns, the acrid tang mixing with cordite. Jesus, how? Australian SAS Regimental History, cross-referenced with USMAC logs released in 1995, quantify the edge. Aussie recce teams averaged 2.1 enemy sightings per sortie versus 0.7 for sensor-led U.S. patrols. "Ground truth trumps electrons," Roberts noted in a smuggled diary, now yellowed in the Australian War Memorial. While Pentagon whiz-kids iterated firmware in air-conditioned trailers, Roberts' methods, Aboriginal basics refined in Malaya's leech-infested hell, decoded the jungle's script. A bent grass blade's curl clocked wind direction against passage. Ant trails disrupted pinpointed latrine halts. VC adapted, but the earth betrayed subtleties no bucket could fake. Thieu pulled back his bait unit, supply lines strangled. In Nui Dat's ops tent, Vance finally cornered Roberts over lukewarm tea. "Teach us, you sunburned wizard." The tracker chuckled dry. "Can't teach eyes, Yank. You gotta live the dirt." Harlan nodded slow, sensor pack ditched. But deeper in the tunnels, Thieu plotted desperate, one big ambush to swallow the stickman whole. The jungle whispered its verdict. Primitives were rewriting the... Deep in the labyrinthine bowels of Kuchi, March 1968, the drip of groundwater echoed like a countdown as Major Nguyen Van Thieu unrolled a rice paper map under flickering carbide light. The Tet bloodbath had bought time, but whispers from forward observers clawed at his resolve. The stick ghost was closing the... "He reads our souls in the mud," Thieu muttered to Leduc, his demo expert, whose eyes darted like trapped rats. Lear described the latest evasion: trail swept with palm fronds, decoy prints from women's sandals filled with sand, even urine diluted with stream water to mimic rain. Yet SAS phantoms materialized at supply caches, calling in Spectre gunships whose miniguns chewed bunkers like rice paper. Thieu's sappers, once cocky jungle spirits, now shit themselves at a leaf's unnatural curl, convinced the Australian inhaled their very breath through disturbed spider silk. "We must drown him in numbers," Thieu decided, circling a grid on the map. "Datdu Ridge, elephant grass thick as a mother's skirts. Lure the Yanks with silence, then swallow the tracker in Claymore Hell." Surface side, at Nui Dat's dew-slick chopper pad, dawn broke humid and leaden on March 15th. Captain Vance, ego bruised but curiosity gnawing, volunteered his reinforced platoon, 28 GIs, fresh from R&R, plus Roberts' 4-man SAS recce, the tracker, his Malayan scout corporal, and 2 silent aborigines from the outback, whose eyes gleamed feral. Harlan tagged along, sensor pack lightened to a joke. Joint op to dat do. Vance briefed over steaming sea rats. Sniffer probes calibrated shiny. Igloo white overlay shows cold. No ping since Tet mop-up. Robert squatted apart, whittling his stick sharper, ignoring the console's smug glow. From Tier's tunnel vantage, imagine through intercepted chatter. These fools marched to doom. Seismic pads bypassed by his stiltsman. Ammonia ghosts scattered via goat bladders. But the stick? Tieu obsessed, sketching boot evasion patterns in soot on his thigh. The patrol snaked single file into the triple canopy gloom, air heavy with rot and distant Agent Orange burn. Vance's screen held steady, green fields of nothing. Monkeys chattered false alarms, rain pattering like fingers on tin. Roberts lagged deliberate, stick-tapping soil like a blind man's cane. At 1100 hours, 2 clicks in, he halted the snake, eyes locked on a fronds underside, dew beads aligned wrong. Trouble, he rasped, voice gravel from dust. Vance snorted, probe extended, sniff as dry as a nun's knickers. But Roberts knelt, finger parting grass. A boot lug, faint, rotated 15 degrees off local flora. NVA import, size 10, 180 pounds bearer. Print edges softened 20% by humidity. Passage, 36 hours prior. Command element, mortars prepped. Harlan tensed. Vance radioed doubt. Negative contacts. Tieu, monitoring via buried wiretap, grinned feral. His lure set, bunkers yawning 600 meters ahead. Baited with the abandoned RPG tube gleaming. Deeper they pushed, sensors lulling like opium. Tieu's heart raced in his mud-choked hole. Lieutenants coiled on tripwires. His sappers had woven perfection. Trails pristine, webs rewoven with spiderlings transplanted at midnight. Dung piles aged with vinegar to fool nostrils. Even seismic ghosts, pigs herded over pads days prior, now rotted to silence. From Leduc's spider hole, breath held, he watched the Yanks stumble close, M16s slung lazy. The machines blind them, Le thought, finger itching on the clacker. But Roberts froze 800 meters out, stick plunging into soft earth at a ford. Silt swirled unnatural, displaced upstream, not flood. Decoy, he murmured. Heavy weapons dragged reverse, 82mm signatures in the gouge depth, 1.8 inches under 90% saturation. Vance's console flickered. A buried pad finally pinged, drowned in false echoes. Bullshit, Vance hit. But Roberts traced ant detours around a pebble. Latrine 20 meters left, fresh shit masked with lime, fear sweat heavy. The ABO scouts fanned silent, confirming, boot polish smear on bark, commissar grade. Tieu's world cracked. Panic sweat slicked his tunic as radio crackle betrayed his wiretap. Roberts calling chords precise. Flank left, bunkers triple layered, demo charges under false floor. Artie whooshed inbound, 150mm shells from Horseshoe Hill cratering the ridge. Leduc triggered wild. Claymores shredded vines, but the patrol was ghosts already, circling wide. Bunkers erupted, screams bubbling mud. Tieu's command post engulfed in fire flash that reeked of superheated earth. Post-strike, SAS swept in. 22 NVA dead, maps singed but legible, urine bladders punctured like sad balloons. One boot, heel-worn French surplus, matched Roberts' earlier sketch. Vance retched into elephant grass, the console's final blip a mocking epitaph. How the fuck? Harlan clapped Roberts' shoulder, sensor rig abandoned like trash. Australian War Memorial Archives, cross-checked with MACV J2 intel drops from 1972, logged the haul. Enemy order of battle sketched, 300-strong regiment pinned. Supply nodes plotted from rice sack fibers, snagged on thorns. Tracker reads narrative, Roberts scrawled in patrol log, ink smudged by rain. Enemy fatigue in tow drag, deception in web voids, ants reclaim in 18 hours. Versus pink rose thermals, declassified NSA tapes reveal 71% dude rate, VC dummies exhaling goat fart heat. Brute electron barrages versus eyes scalpel. Yanks drown trails in data deluge, false positives chaining patrols to fruitless firefights. Roberts decoded intent, panic strides, resupply halts from canvas tears. Tieu crawled from rubble, lungs seared, half his cadre vapor. In a bolt hole near the Saigon River, he wept silent, plotting exile. The stick devours lies, he confessed to a dying Lebovance back at Nuidat, ditched his pack, begging lessons. Roberts just smiled. Jungle's the teacher, but whispers spread. Pentagon eyes on the primitive, VC noose tightening inward. The war's gods shifted. Silicon knelt to soil. April 1968 sweltered like Satan's armpit over Phuoc Tui, the monsoon truce yielding to a steam that peeled paint from Huey's. Major Nguyen Van Thieu, ribs cracked from Datu's hellfire, slithered through a rat-lined bolt hole near the Rachbua River, pus oozing from shrapnel kisses under his sodden black pajamas. The air reeked of gangrene and fermented fish sauce. His surviving lieutenants huddled like whipped dogs around a single candle stub. Leduc was meat now, vapor trail in the ridge crater, but his last rasp echoed. The stick devours. Thieu's maps, half charred, fluttered in the draft. Red circles tightening on Nuidat, the Aussie nest. No more pinpricks. He'd brew a cauldron. Flood the trails with blood, he wheezed to his new sapper chief, a scar-faced kid from Hanoi. Every print a brother, every shadow a gun. Let the ghost chase ghosts into the maw. Paranoia clawed deeper. Thieu scratched footprints into the tunnel floor at night, erasing them frantic, convinced the earth tattled even underground. From the Nuidat Ops Shack, where diesel generators growled like caged tigers, Captain Ellis Vance paced sweat-slick linoleum, a Pentagon egghead at his elbow. Colonel Harlan Tech Whitaker from ARPA, clipboard thick as a Bible, flight from Saigon stinking of jet fuel and cologne. "Show me this caveman voodoo," Whitaker barked, eyes hungry behind aviator shade. Vance, pried a fresh scar, nodded to Roberts outside, the tracker squatting bare-chested, stick-etched with fresh notches from Datu's loot. Harlan's platoon remnants milled, sensors mothballed in crates like yesterday's trash. Word from Mac V. Brass. Evaluate primitive augmentation for Igloo White 2.0. Vance's sniffer rig, once his Excalibur, gathered dust. Declassified trial logs from Bien Hoa already whispered heresy. Sensor accuracy cratered to 38% post-TET. VC stilts and dungfire thermals laughing last. Joint op greenlit. Operation Dust Devil. Intel pinning a 200-strong NVA regimental HQ redux in the Long Green, 5 clicks east of Binba. Thieu's masterstroke. 50 sappers seeding a virgin trail with layered deception. Decoy prints backward dragged by water buffalo hides. Urine vats aged in clay pots to mimic week-old rot. Seismic pads shorted with vinegar leak. Spiderwebs hand-tied from village loop. From his Rachbua redoubt, Thieu monitored via bamboo telegraph. Lips curling. Machines will sing clear. The stick will drown in brothers' blood. His vanguard, 30 fanatics in fresh tiger fatigue. Looped the trail pristine. Abo-style whispers be damned. Boots muffled in rice straw. Latrines raked leaf-perfect, and highways untouched. Thieu slept fitful, dreaming of a bamboo pole piercing his heart. Dawn, April 22nd, onto 700 hours. The patrol, 40 strong, 25 Yanks, 15 SAS hybrids, slipped from LZ like oil on water. Whitaker tagged rear, recorder whirring, sniffer probes thrust forward by Vance's radio map. Screens glowed Eden green. No ammonia blooms, seismic flatline, even acoustic mics catching only bird fart. Billions validate, Whitaker murmured, scribbling. Roberts lagged 50 meters, stick a divining rod, Abo scouts fanning upslope silent as smoke. Jungle symphony mocked, cicadas droning, vines clawing fatigues slick with dew. At 0930, 3 clicks deep, Vance halted smug at a stream glade, console purring. "Picnic time, Roberts. Your twig got nothing?" The Aussie froze mid-stride, nostrils flaring at a faint vinegar tang masked by rot bloom. Stick plunged, pebble displaced 0.4 inches rightward, unnatural in current flow. "Flood coming," he growled low. "Not rain, bodies." Heavy panicked steps masked forward, but Silt says reverse drag 2 days back. Whitaker snorted, probe dipped, dry as bone. But Roberts traced a grass stem's kink, blade curl clockwise against breeze. Passage southbound 48 hours prior. Humidity etch at 25%. 40-plus staggered. Command prints clustered. Heels squared. Hanoi issue. Harlan's gut twisted. Vance radioed skepticism. Thieu in his hole, fist clenched on clacker. His trap 1 click ahead. Bunkers triple dug with 200-pound demo nest. Every man a claymore. Sappers coiled. Breaths baited. Watching the Yanks blunder close through periscope. The ghost hesitates. One whisper. Lay's replacement fingered the wire. Screens lied perfect. Roberts veered hard left into bamboo thicket choking with lianas, ignoring Vance's curses. "Trust it or die," Harlan snapped, ditching his pack. Whitaker's recorder caught the shift, abrupt. At noon, cresting a false ridge, the world proved the stick. False trail erupted behind. Tu's demo chief panicked early, claymores thumping wild, shredding decoy pigs hung as bait. Echoes boomed, but the patrol ghosted parallel. Roberts clocking enemy shift from thorn-snagged AK sling fibers. Regiment fatigued, resupply low. Canvas tears, signal rice rot. Flank confirmed, 800 meters off trail. Tu's HQ yawned. Dugouts bristling RPDs. Ammo pallets stacked like firewood. Vance's delayed sniffer finally twitched, overloaded by massed goat bladders, but too late for glory. Arty rained biblical. 105s from Nui Dat, pulverizing the green secondary blasts blooming orange as demo chains cooked off. Tu's scream cut short in the maelstrom, bunker lips vomiting flame that smelled of charred pork and cordite. Post-strike sweep. 47. NVA twisted in mud, maps pristine in a command hooch, boot polish pots confirming Roberts's Hanoi call. One heel-squared print, etched in bloodmire, matched the tracker's sketch. Whitaker retched dry, recorder fried by near miss. 92% predictive, he gasped, citing fresh ARPA field data. Vance knelt wordless, sniffer probe snapped like a twig. Australian SAS after-action dispatches, declassified 2001 from AWM vaults, tally the route. Full regiment order of battle, POW camp cords from prisoner boot drags. Earth narrates deception seams, Roberts etched in log, beside a sketched web void timeline. Spiders reclaim lies in 12 hours dry, 24 wet. Versus Uncle Sam's deluge. Pink Rose Phase 2 memos, fume at 68% false negatives. VC blankets woven from U.S. ponchos fooling IR. Brute data tsunamis versus soil scalpel. Yanks fed algorithms ghosts. Roberts harvested truth. Toe splay screaming route. Pebble flips betraying demo hole. Word rocketed to Tanson Nut. Primitive yields 4x sensor ROI. Tu's cadre shattered. Tunnels emptying like veins bled dry. Vance cornered Roberts at sunset, beer trembling. "You're the future, mate." The tracker eyed the horizon, stick blood-crusted. "Nah, just oldest trick. Listen to dirt." But in Pentagon Sims, WizKid sketched stick-augmented sensor nets. The jungle's old gods nodded. One final test loomed, where stick met unbreakable lie. May 1968 baked Phuoc Tui into a fever dream. The long green swelling with monsoon promise as Major Nguyen Van Thieu, gaunt as a bamboo stalk, shrapnel scars puckering his chest like bad welds, crouched in a fever hole off the Rach Bua, the last redoubt of his shattered 274th Regiment. Candle smoke curled thick, mingling with the sour reek of unwashed fear and pus-soaked bandages. His final 80 cadres huddled, eyes hollow from rice thinned to... Dat Du's ghosts haunted him. Leduc's vapor, the clacker's futile twitch, but Thieu's master lie brood. Operation Phantom Flood. No more tricks. A human wave of 300 ghosts from Cosven reserves, boots sloughed in latex ghosts, trails swept by cadre crawling backward on bellies, erasing narrative with blood and spit. Urine, replaced by cadre piss drunk recycled, no buckets to betray. Seismic, pads flooded deliberate with siphon hoses mimicking storm surge. From his mud womb, Thieu visualized the flood Nui Dat's flanks with clear zones. Draw the stick ghost into a kill sack at Hat Dish. Bunkers laced with 500 kilier stolen demo, every man chained to glory. He reads dirt, Thieu rasped to his commissar, finger gouging a trial print into clay. "We'll make the dirt read us all dead together." Sleep evaded. He pawed tunnel walls, convinced footprints seeped through stone. At Nui Dat's wire perimeter, where razor coils dripped dew like venom, Colonel Harlan Whitaker, ARPA's prodigy, now embedded with sweat rings blooming his khakis, poured over fresh overlays in the ops tent, fans whirring futile against 110-degree hell. Vance shadowed him, sniffer rigs stacked like coffins, his voice a convert's rasp. Roberts called it 4 times running, sticks batting 1,000. Intel screamed crescendo, Cosven massing for monsoon push, Hat Dick the Nexus, Pentagon greenlight, Operation Viper Strike, all in. 60 Yanks from 1st Infantry fused with Roberts's expanded recce troop, 20 SAS trackers, including 3 ABO elders, flown from Alice Springs, their eyes black mirrors of ancient voids. Harlan's scar throbbed. No sensors this, pure primitive Mac VJ3 memo stamped, provisional. Roberts, stick honed to a needle, briefed under stars. They're desperate. Prince will scream it. Overloaded toes, panic splay. Whitaker taped covert clipboard trembling. Declassified ARPA field trials from Bien Hoa already evangelized. Visual tracking nullifies 89% VC countermeasures. Recommend hybrid retrofit. May 12th, 0400 hours. Chopper blades thwopped insertion 8 clicks, shy of Hattik. The patrol melting into fern-choked nulla like ink in water. Air hung leaden, laced with night bloom rot and distant napalm ghosts. Thieu's wiretap, buried bamboo fiber, crackled faint. The fools inbound, screens they ditched no obstacle. His vanguard crawled perfection. 100 sappers bellied trails flat. Ant paths restored with sugar paste, grass kinked uniform by wind-mimic brooms. Latrines vaporized with lime kilns, boot drags feathered to mist. From spider holes ringing the killsack, bunkers triple concreted, RPD nests 0 to 50 meters. Thieu's lieutenants coiled, clackers slick with sweat. Ghost comes, one breathed, finger white-knuckled. Thieu in central command, 10 meters down, pulse hammering. The stick would kneel in blood tide. Roberts led from shadows, stick a whisper on loam. Abo scouts ghosting flanks with bare feet silent as owls. At Dodo 6:30, dawn graying the canopy. Vance, now believer, flanked rear. M60, 4 clicks in, the lie shimmered pristine. No snapped fronds, webs jeweled perfect, soil narrative erased to virgin script. Whitaker's hidden recorder word doubt. But Roberts halted at a nulla lip, nostrils flaring against the bloom. Lime faint under humus veil. Stick notched 0.7 inches into bank silt. Unnatural uniformity, grains packed reverse to micro-drainage. Flood, voice dust. Not water, crawlers, hundreds. Bellied low, latex ghosts 72 hours back. Command hub ahead, demo reek masked. Harlan froze. Vance gripped rifle white. Thieu, periscope peering, grinned wolfish. 2 clicks out, the sack yawned, 250 souls primed. Deeper, the patrol spidered wide on Roberts's call. ABO eyes catching web voids invisible to Yanks. Spiders shunning lime taint zones. At 0830, 1 click shy, stick-pierced grassroot, fiber twist clockwise, unnatural shear, bunker vent disguised. Triple layer, 82 millimeters recessed. Thieu's heart seized. His demo chief twitched early panic. Clacker mashed. Claymores blooming premature 400 meters off. Shredding decoy cadre, but lighting the grid. Echoes thundered. Patrol ghosts already arcing flanks. Roberts traced a lone outlier. Commissar boot, desperate sprint. Toe gouge 2 inches deep from overload. They're chained. Human minefield. Artie screamed inbound. Puffs, flares, popping crimson. AC-47 miniguns, hosing lead rain that stripped canopy like a scythe. Bunkers erupted chain reaction. Ground vomiting fireballs reeking of baked earth and pork char. Thieu's clacker jammed futile blast wave pulping his hole. Screams drowned in demo thunder. 267 NVA tallied in the cratered maw. Sweep at dusk. COSVN maps pristine amid gore. Boot polish vats confirming Hanoi flood. POW drags etched in survivor print. 1 commissar heel, squared, frantic, matched Roberts' Nulla sketch. Whitaker collapsed knees deep in mire. Recorder capturing the apocalypse. Stick ROI infinite. Vance wept silent, rifle slung. Australian SAS regimental logs, cracked open 2005 from classified AWM troves, seal it. 92% enemy neutralized pre-contact. 0 friendly losses across 18 months. Dirt decodes desperation, Roberts scrawled final entry. Beside a web reclaim chart. Lies unravel in 8 hours under scrutiny. Versus Igloo White's tombstone, NSA audits fume 74% failure. VC latex and lime laughing electrons to rust. Pentagon memos snowballed. Replicate Aboriginal visual protocols. Thieu's tide broke. COSVN fled north. Jungle sighing relief. Vance saluted Roberts at extract. You ended it. The tracker shouldered stick, eyes on eternal green. Nah, mate. Just reminded empires. Tech forgets, Earth endures. In the roar of history's longest war, one truth etched eternal. The primitive eye outstares any machine, because the ground never blinks.